I have lives every day, uh, Monday through Friday. It's all good though. This is what I live for. Okay. This is when I come alive. Okay. And we don't, we're going to wait a few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. Not too long though, because I know you're very busy and I want to be respectful of your time.
That is kind of you, and yours. And thank you so much for inviting me on your live. Um, this is kind of a new process for me. I haven't done a lot of these, and I'm enjoying them. So I do not doubt that we will enjoy ourselves.
Absolutely. Surviving cancer. Thank you very much for being here.
Woohoo!
We appreciate you. Absolutely. So, I know that this is a very busy week for a lot of people that are celebrating not only, Christmas, but also Hanukkah. You know, I have some dear friends in Israel, and they're celebrating. I believe it's the 14th through the 22nd.
That's right. That's right. And I got to celebrate the first night of Hanukkah with my grandchildren yesterday, and we had a killer game of dreidel. Um, this is a competitive household when it comes to family game night, and so the 7-year-old won the entire dreidel pot. So much for teaching youngins gambling. But there's actually an interesting story behind the dreidel game that I will share, because the story of Hanukkah is old enough to predate the story of Christ by several hundred years, because the story of Christ picks up with the Roman occupation, and the story of Hanukkah is from the Greek occupation, which is several hundred years prior. And my understanding is that the game of dreidel is something that the kids would have so that when the soldiers passed by, they would hide their studies, hide their texts, and they would pull out the game and play the game. Um, and so that is why we keep the dreidel game going with the story of Hanukkah, which is of course the story of the miracle of lights and how an urn lasted 8 days so that they could rebuild and have just enough time to create more. I think I want to say one more thing about holidays, because I'm very fond and have a very weird and wonderful family. I always start saying happy thanks Christmas Kwanzaa um, about the Thanksgiving. So happy thanks Christmas Kwanzaa. May you have more joy than you can stand into the new year, to cover everybody. But uh, Hanukkah is a holiday that is celebrated in the home. It's not a holiday you run to temple or church. The whole point is that you bring your faith in here. Faith is in here, and it's not something that requires a functioning temple. And I think that's another reason why the story still resonates after a couple of thousand years. So, pardon my pedantry. I happen to have told the story of Hanukkah to my 7-year-old and 2-year-old grandchildren. And so that's what I'm thinking of there. I see a lot of people have joined. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone. I appreciate all the various religious ceremonies and rituals and all of these things, because I spent 2 tours in Israel. Okay. I had an opportunity to go to Passover. I had an opportunity to, be Yom Kippur. Okay. All of these sacred holidays are, like you said, at home. Think about it, when I was a child growing up in the Baptist church, the family ate together. Okay, you
Mhm.
prayed together, and the nuclear family, was much more stable, much more powerful, much more influential as a result of that. Nowadays, you sit at the table, everybody on their cell phones, everybody's disconnected, nobody's talking to nobody, and that's a problem. That's a problem within our society.
I admire families that have no electronics at the table rules and things like that. I think that's kind of cool. Um, Having said that, though, there's plenty of opportunity to learn about Christmas in my family and to learn about Hanukkah in my family and to learn about anything that anybody wants because our shared history is just so much greater than any individual slice of it. That's all.
I really love these conversations because when I was in Israel, it just made me more appreciative, okay, of the customs, the values, the things that we just take for granted. We're like, oh, we're going to put up the Christmas tree, we're going to open the gifts, but it's more symbolic. It's more sacred than that. Even if there's, go ahead.
No. I wasn't going to interrupt you, but I don't think you have to go to Israel for that. I reside halfway between Saratoga Springs, New York, and I'm actually a New York City girl. And Cincinnati, Ohio. And my community in Cincinnati has a gigantic fall Diwali celebration. And I did not have that growing up. And I'm thinking, this is fantastic. Um, so you don't have to go far. You can find that kind of thing at home. Anyhow, I think we need to get on topic. Actually, it's your dime, lady. Where should we go?
Okay, I just want to sum this conversation up because I love I spent 16 years overseas, and so diversity and inclusion is very important. And I lived in the city of Detroit. There's no way that I would have came in contact with someone like yourself or other individuals from other nationalities from where I
Sure,
was.
sure.
So in order for me to learn and grow, I had to move out of the environment I was in, which enriched me in ways that you can see. Okay. I wouldn't have never experienced such things. And I
Uh,
just say these things because I want to give other people an opportunity to get outside of their comfort zone,
right?
go and travel and learn about all these different cultures, all the different foods, the spices, the music, the art. It just opens you up to so much more in life. So much more. And to show that we limit ourselves in so many ways.
I agree with you. And the gift of travel and the gift of reading are two of the greatest gifts that we can give one another.
Absolutely. And that's why you and I are having this conversation today about the correlation of finances, leadership, and power. And who else better to talk with today than Sherry Finkel Murphy? Okay. Sherry Finkel Murphy is a certified financial planner and the founder of Madrina Mali. Okay. It's a platform dedicated to financial and longevity planning education for women in midlife and beyond. Okay. So those credentials behind your name, they mean something. You can talk about those specifically, your designations. She brings a deep expertise around retirement, income planning, and comprehensive financial strategies. Thank you very much, Sherry, for joining us today. And
Thank you for the fancy schmancy info.
okay, well, that's the least I can do, right?
So we like the full info introduction, and all of the credentials say that I've got the book smarts, but I think that in my years of financial planning and as a wealth manager, which I sold my practice 2 years ago and launched Madrina Mali, maybe the thing that made me most effective was just a little bit of mileage. Um, a mileage on the wheels that I'd been a woman who was married and divorced. I'd been a woman who was in and out of the workplace. I'd seen parents decline. I repartnered. All of these life experiences that normal people have. I guess just, old enough to have something to say about them. Um, and we develop as we age, in addition to our gravitas and our experience. I'd like to think we develop more empathy. Um, and so I understand the pain that people bring to me when they bring me their I'm going to say financial nervousness, shame, lack of confidence. Um, you would be shocked by the number of ridiculously successful people, women mostly, who would introduce themselves, and the first thing they'd say is, "You're going to tell me I'm doing everything wrong." Now, I could be looking across the table at a multimillionaire, and that's their opening statement to me. Like, what? How could you possibly believe that you're doing everything wrong if you have multiple millions of dollars? But yet, here we are. Um, and I think a lot of the fault lies with the financial institution, because the financial industry is predicated on me saying, "Margaret, I do what I do better than you, so you should let me manage your money." The implication, in other words, is that, "Margaret, you're wrong and I know better." And I'm not certain that's the truth. I'm not certain that's true at all. So I like to dispel that myth. I'm not certain that a wealth manager or any particular financial advisor knows better than you or can manage your wealth better than you. They simply do it for a living and you do not. It is my hope that you have better things to do with your time, and you'd like your money on autopilot. Anyhow, that's my opening salvo there. I had a very successful wealth management practice. I sold it with some joy. I launched my clients. I have a wonderful successor in my practice. Her name is Christine Lemuti. Um, I do refer out to many practitioners depending upon what the needs are, but now I educate. I have a membership subscription. An annual membership gets people access to me to ask questions. I answer them, I anonymize them, kind of like Dear Abby, in my community behind the paywall. I do mini courses, I do webinars, and I'm even starting a dividend club because in a new, I guess, sort of an epiphany for me, I realized that in a 100-year life, which is where all the kids are going, and even you and I may be living to 100. I don't know about you, but I've got a 98-year-old mom, so it's going to be close here. We're going to be in and out of the workforce several times. I mean, that mirrors the way women live their lives to begin with. But I think the days of working for 40 years after going to school are done. I think young people expect to be in and out, take a break, go back in. It's very difficult to fund 35 to 40 years of retirement, and that could be what we're looking at. That would require missing the best part of life. That would require not being able to afford a dog, and I know how you love your dog. That would be not being able to afford the travel. So you want some flexibility there rather than scrimping and saving and suffering to have a 30, 35, 40-year retirement. And all of that is to say that when I took a sabbatical mid-career, I used a piece of my portfolio. I funded it with a piece of my savings. But what if we taught people to create income producing portfolios so that it was part of the way they conduct their lives? In other words, in addition to having an emergency fund, which is best practice, and in addition to saving for retirement in a retirement vehicle, which is best practice, we also taught people how to create the kind of brokerage accounts that develop dividends and over time grow them so that the dividend pays a bill and then the dividend pays a month's rent. And then maybe even the dividend pays for employment while you're taking time off. So that's an epiphany because I used to only do that in retirement. And now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, why aren't we teaching 30-year-olds to do this? I'm sorry, I've been babbling. Go ahead.
No, no, no. This is very good information. But what I want to know the impact of legislation, okay? Because when I took my final withdraw from TSP because my daughter's not gonna have a clue on what to do. So I like, let me take my money out of here because I'm trying to consolidate it all at this point because I had to retire before I was ready. Okay.
Okay.
So what was my point? It was red. Okay, it was red for a reason. It's red because of all of the noise that's going on in DC. Okay, which is shrinking our retirement funds that we put in there. Also, the impacts of the tariffs. Okay, and all of the other things that's going on in the world. So, who's to say you got $1 million in there today? It could be 500,000 when you get ready to retire.
Well,
But if
go ahead, keep going.
Okay, so then if you decide, okay, I'm gonna put all the money in the G fund, which means that you're just gonna get the bare minimum. You're losing either way it goes.
The answer is yes. And so you're not wrong there, but I'm in the business of calming people down. So
Okay.
let's think about it this way. Your TSP, which is a 401k, which is a retirement tax preferred fund, meaning it grows tax free and its income when it comes out, that is in the market. For the modern market is about 100 years old. We actually date it from 1926, so it's 99 years old. We have data that says over time it always goes up. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't go ricochet rabbiting day to day, but over the long period, it goes up. So you can expect if you keep your assets in the market, the longer you keep your assets in the market, the more they will grow. The only time you should be concerned with downward motion of the market is when you intend to take that money and use it. And there's a trick for that. And the trick for that is called a cash buffer. So take notes, whomever has joined. The most bear markets, so that's a downward market. Most bear markets are far shorter than bull markets. We're in the longest bull market anyone's ever seen. So most bear markets are short. They tend to correct in 10 months. They tend to be back in 2 years. So we use 2 years as a cash buffer. That says if you're going to use your money within 2 years, you don't want it in the market. So if you are in distribution, if you're not in distribution, look the other way. Just don't look at the balance. Don't pay attention. It'll only upset you. You continue contributing because you're contributing, you're buying on sale. But if you are going into distribution, you take 2 years worth of cash beyond your pension, beyond your pension, your Social Security, whatever your guaranteed sources of income. That's what goes in the G fund. For those of you who aren't familiar with the G fund, it's the equivalent of a money market fund. It's cash and cash equivalents. So it's technically not in the market. In other words, money that you're going to use in the next 2 years is not in stocks and bonds, so that it is immune from any fluctuations. And then maybe if the market is up in the next year, you refill your G fund. This assumes you haven't, rolled it all over into an IRA. What makes never mind. Doesn't matter if you do or if you don't. It's still the same. The idea is when you go into distribution for the rest of your life, you want a cash buffer. Well, guess what? To what I just said about my dividend club, when you go into sabbatical, if you're a FIRE person or a FINE person, which is financial independence, retire early, if you're one of those super savers who's determined to be financially independent for a few years, well, you want a cash buffer. And so you want a certain amount of money not in the market, and that's what you're drawing from. You want a growth bucket that is not only in the market, but is plenty aggressive, because the market has never been down. The only 15-year cycle where it was down was the Great Depression. Even Even the Great Recession in 2008, if you held on until 2010 and didn't do a thing, you were back on the upswing. So the people who won in 2008 are the people who turned the other, sort of said, I'm not looking, I'm not doing anything. And they kind of did the Heisman and walked away for a couple of years. The ones who were really smart, they bought on sale. So my message to you is know that there will always be volatility. Yes, sometime there is more volatility there than at other times, and Lord knows this administration can make things volatile. So we
Just saying the one thing, it'll just the
and
market.
and that's what the market does, though. The market is sort of future looking. Know that automated trading rules the day. So there is no one person who is smarter than the algorithms that are running the computerized trades. So don't try. Don't try. If you're putting money into the market, you put the same amount in each month. Sometimes you buy on sale, sometimes you pay a little premium, but over time, you're going to be a winner. And if you're taking money out, whether it's a sabbatical or true distribution for retirement, that cash buffer is all important, because once you have that cash buffer, you really can afford to sort of let the market do its thing and it will settle in. And I will tell you, the market is crazy volatile, but it is also trading at its all-time highs. So it feels ucky, but oh my goodness, the market this morning was at 8,900. It's Monday the 15th of December, and it definitely was over 8,900 this morning. Is it playing Ricochet Rabbit? Yes, it is. So does that help you? Does that help you feel calmer to say, with a 2-year cash buffer, count up
Sure.
your Social Security, count up your pension, and put that one amount in the G fund, because that's what you're going to pull from?
Oh well, that's no longer. I don't have any more. I closed that account.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
out of it. The point is, whatever that equivalent amount is goes in a money market fund
Sure.
or a high yield savings while it's waiting for you, and then the rest of it will recover when the market recovers.
Now, the one thing that I want to ask you about is the Social Security. They say that Social Security is running out of money. That's why let me go ahead and apply, because I work very hard and I want my money.
So, Social Security is not going to. I would say that pshaw, it's all nonsense. I do hate the brinksmanship that Congress plays. I despise their brinksmanship. We do have a challenge in the Social Security Trust Fund. It is going to be depleted in 2033, and if we do nothing. There are some very easy fixes, but Congress has not had the appetite to do any of them. What it means,
They keep procrastinating, keep kicking the ball down the road.
yeah, they just keep kicking that can, and I don't care for it. But in the very worst case, benefits will be cut 23%. So yeah, painful, right? Um, what it does is it changes our calculations. And for the listeners here, I would go to a piece of open source that is trustworthy, and that is opensocialsecurity.org. Open Social Security is a free tool that will let you calculate when you should take your Social Security with or without a partner. And you can put in some parameters and play with that 23% cut. Because normally, if you're single, the answer is almost always going to be wait as long as possible. Wait as long as possible, because that is how you get I'm just telling you what the calculator says. It says wait as long as possible because that is how you get the largest possible amount.
True.
However, um, if there is a 23% cut, you may not want to count on that. If you are partnered and there's a difference in age between you and your partner, that may change your calculation. And so I won't get too deep in the weeds, but I'm starting to see some funny scenarios whereby instead of waiting until the latest possible age to take Social Security, it's telling me take Social Security early, then freeze your benefit at full retirement age, 67, gain the guaranteed 8% increase year over year. So you get 8% to wait until 68, 69, 70. So that's 24% you could add and then start it up again at 70, which is, it feels a little crazy, but I understand it because after a while, the extra payments between 62 and 67 is more than the 8%. So there's a little math there that's going on. Now there's a catch, and that's, that your Medicare Part B payment comes out of your Social Security check. So if that's
Exactly.
the case and you halt your payments, means you have to pay your Medicare Part B premium out of your own pocket. So you just have to be aware of that.
I was going to ask you about that because they're trying to change the system. They're trying to get rid of Obamacare. Okay. And so what is that going to do to the rest of us? Okay.
So let's understand that Medicare is a wonderful system. Medicare Advantage was supposed to be an improvement on it. It is not. It is not. Um, we we cannot do without health care as a country. I think, I'm just, I don't want to be partisan about this. I don't care who solves the problem. We are marching towards universal health care one way or the other. It's just painful. And the thing that steals the headlines is all the salacious stuff, the horrible stuff, the blah, blah, blah says that it, um, I believe that Oregon has a prototype that is going into effect of universal health care. So we're going to actually have a prototype of what that looks like in one state. Um, we are going to see what we can actually do. I think we are talking about, that some of the largest healthcare providers, United Healthcare, is being sued by the Justice Department for their abuse of Medicare Advantage. We'll see what gets hammered out. So don't let the headlines steal your joy. I mean, yeah, they're trying to be accurate, but I think they're also avoiding some of the change that is happening. And there are people with their finger on the pulse of the problem who are working toward solutions. And I don't care what they call it. I don't care, if they can replace Obamacare with universal health care, this is good. We need universal health care for everyone. And if it ends up being
I agree.
Medicare, where it ends up being Medicare for all, I'm a fan of Medicare. I'm a fan of the program. For all of its flaws, it has been improved over time. Oh, fun fact. I have a fun fact. Did you know that the biggest and most successful changes to Medicare have in the past occurred under Republican administrations? Um, Not even Democrat administrations. So, in the spirit of something good comes out of every administration, no matter how they bark about we hate this, we hate that, I will let you know that Medicare expansion occurred under Reagan, and the prescription Part D loophole was fixed under Bush. Um, and so there's a great deal that happens that the press just doesn't spin properly. Sorry for harping on that. I want to bring down the temperature here. Let's bring down the temperature.
No, we're good. One of the things that these lobbyists like AARP, they're supposed to be looking out for our benefits. Are they really?
Oh, that's a good question. They are first and foremost lobbyists. And so they are representing the constituency, and that constituency votes. I mean, older Americans vote, for goodness sakes. So it is tremendously unpopular not to continue the subsidies, the ACA subsidies that are the bone of contention right now in Congress. Um, And I think that's why there's a lot of hemming and hawing, because there are a lot of Congress people who realize that if they don't vote to continue the subsidies, they're not getting reelected.
You
Um,
want to explain what they are so people know?
sure. There are, to keep the cost of the Affordable Care Act plans affordable, there are subsidies based on income tiers. So when you meet a certain income tier, you receive a credit against the care plan you choose, because you are required to get insurance in this marketplace. And this marketplace was not created because Obama said it has to be created. It was created because the insurance companies said, you can't create a solution that cuts us out. Nya, nya,
Of
nya,
course
nya.
not. Of course not.
Um, so they did this, and they'd love to blame everybody else. But the idea being that if you have a certain income tier, you get credits. And those credits expired. And in Congress, the Democrats said, we will not, this was all about what closed the government. We will not open the government unless you include those subsidies. And the Republicans said, we don't care. We hate the Affordable Care Act. We're going to replace it. Well, in years, Congress has not created a replacement for the Affordable Care Act. Some have suggested Medicare for all. We are still fighting over the extension of these subsidies, and we just don't have a win. And as a result, these insurance plans are going to become extremely expensive in 2026. And that's going to create an uproar.
Okay, what about the people like myself, people that have private insurance? I don't know. I don't know if Blue Cross Blue Shield is considered a private insurance. Probably not.
Well, if you have your insurance through a company,
Federal government. Federal
okay,
government.
so federal government, then you are going to pay whatever the negotiated premium is for that insurance. So whatever your copay is. Um, Likewise, if you are military, you are participating in TRICARE, one of the TRICARE solutions. Um, and if you are employed by a corporation, you may have um, health care from that corporation, whether that corporation purchases the health care or whether that corporation insures itself, is self pay. So that's one thing. This is specifically the people who purchase these plans in the marketplace. And that's a lot of Americans. A lot of Americans have been purchasing these plans. Something like 35 million, I want to say. I mean, a lot of Americans purchase plans through the marketplace, and it's jumping up. To boot, the Medicare Part C people, the Medicare Advantage people, they're also seeing increases in their premiums. And so that's a big problem. Last, the cost of living adjustment, the COLA on Social Security, well, that's getting eaten up by the Part B premium. So we need a fix. We've been, like you said, kicking it down the road, and we have to stop kicking it down the road.
They don't care because they got money.
Well, I think
Honestly,
I think what bothers me is what they have is their own health care plan. And it would
right.
be nice to put everybody on the same plan that Congress is on. I'd sign up for that. I'd sign up for the health care that Congress has. They have a wonderful program. But that's not something we can fix. So let's wind it back, because here's what we can talk about, and that's what I call, personal dominion over your money. The impolitic way of saying that, pardon my French, everybody, is own your shit. Um, and that's that you make decisions, and some of those decisions are good decisions, and some of those decisions are, I don't know, instinctive decisions, knee jerk decisions, I had a bad day decisions. Whatever decisions you make, I would tell you that the people who arrive at personal leadership, who truly exercise their own personal power, that dominion, and they're happy with themselves and they sleep at night, they're characterized by being intentional with their money. They're just intentional. Now, that doesn't mean they don't buy the shoes. Sometimes You gotta have the shoes. Sometimes you don't want to cook. You want to go out to dinner. It's all good. It's all good. Um, I'm for a person who, uh, since the pandemic, I've spent way too much time in sweats. But I get that there are people who still have wardrobes. I get dressed. I get dressed from the waist up. I have expensive clothing from the waist up, and then I have sweatpants from the waist down. Um, the Are you like that?
Whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, I am just revealing truths, Margaret. I am revealing truths. My point is that we all spend our money on what's important to us. And to pretend that we need to do this because somebody else does it, or we must have that, or to feel that we can't do without. I'm not advocating that people deprive themselves. I'm advocating that when you make a choice to spend money here, you might be making a choice not to spend it there. And that's different. I mean, that's the difference, right? You are making a choice. So, what I can offer, in addition to saying if you don't have an emergency fund, people out there, you need an emergency fund. And an emergency fund, perhaps the most important thing about it is not that it be large, but that it be separate. An emergency fund must be a separate savings account. And you put a little into it, and it is the absolute, you know what has hit the fan account. There is nothing that helps you sleep at night like having a proper emergency fund.
You're right about that.
The second thing I think is really important, and this is for women. I've never yet met a man who needs one. And that's called a forget you fund. And a forget you fund, um, it's spelled F*CK, just like it sounds. A forget you fund is yet another bucket in a separate savings account that is not jointly titled, that is not shared with your kids. I know a lot of women who, even when they get their own bonus, they ask if it's okay to spend it on themselves. Well, this is money that is only for you, and you use it 3 times. You use it to remove yourself from a toxic relationship and put a hotel over your head. You remove yourself from a toxic employment before you have another one lined up. And you can use it as startup money. So, unlike the emergency fund, which is not to be spent, the forget you fund you can spend. So I just wanted to remind everybody that if you have those, that's the key to sleeping at night. Next step. And it doesn't require wealth. It doesn't require months and months and months. This is just start tucking it away. So, what I want to offer is that framework that gets you dominion. And I realize that everybody who's listening has different levels of knowledge about money, but I'm going to give you an acronym and a little mnemonic. Sorry, not an acronym, a mnemonic, a memory tool. And it's my sentence: plans take a lifetime to realize, because the letters are what I want to tell you about. And what it means is that whenever money comes in, whenever you receive money, whether it's your paycheck, your pension check, a windfall of some sort, a bonus, a commission, whenever you receive money, you ascribe it purpose. What is the purpose of this money? Is it for expenses? Well, then it goes in my checking account. Is it for next year? Well, then maybe it goes in a high yield savings account. Is it for 10 years? For when I want to take a vacation? Well, then maybe it goes into a brokerage account. Maybe it goes in the market, because remember, it's over 2 years, so it could go in the market to grow. Is it for retirement? Maybe it goes in a preferred account, like an IRA or a Roth IRA. All of which is to say that if you do not assign your money purpose, it's going to wander. It's going to wander little by little, and suddenly it'll be gone. Number 2, time horizon. Ascribe your money time horizon. You say, when do I need this back? Because that tells you what instrument is right. Too many people ascribe the wrong time horizon to their money. Either they leave money in checking too long where it doesn't earn any interest, or they put it in the market when they're going to need it back. And sure enough, the market is down when they need it back. So they've taken a loss. So that's time horizon. You need to know, well, when do I need this money back? That's the principle behind that cash buffering. Liquidity. Liquidity is how readily might this be available for cash? There are certain instruments, like a certificate of deposit in a bank, that you can't have back until it matures. So if I get a 1-year certificate of deposit and I break that, it's going to cost me. I'm going to lose interest. Sometimes I might even lose principal, but I'm going to lose interest. So that's an example of something that is illiquid. The equity in your house, illiquid, right? Unless you have a home equity line of credit, it is, and that's an example of liquidity. It is illiquid. So know how liquid your money needs to be. Next is tax treatment. Is it appropriate to get a preferential tax treatment? So what's a preferential tax treatment? A retirement account is a preferential tax treatment. A capital gains versus income, that's a preferential tax treatment. So what's the right tax treatment for this money? And then the last is deep in my gut, what's my sense of risk? So let me put all that together because that was a lot. Purpose, time horizon, liquidity, tax treatment, risk. Plans take a lifetime to realize. If you think about every time money comes in. So I get my paycheck and my paycheck is $1,000. And I say, what's this money for? And I find out, well, $600 is for my expenses. $600 into the checking account. $200 is for retirement. $200 right into the Roth IRA. And $200 is saving up to buy, I don't know, a car in 5 years. That goes into the brokerage account or the account that is for the car. And I promise you, if you use that mnemonic, that plans take a lifetime to realize, purpose, time horizon, liquidity, tax treatment, risk, you will always know where to put your money, and that will give you confidence. That will give you confidence.
Awesome. I had 2 questions. One about long-term care, because before I retired, they wanted to sell me a plan that I can ill afford. So as we get older, we need to be concerned about that. My neighbor just passed away recently. And so the cost of that, you know,
So not everyone can afford to solve a problem with insurance. Long-term care insurance is insurance. I am, and here's the challenge. The longer you wait to purchase insurance, the more
more cost.
expensive insurance, the more it costs. So sometimes people have missed the boat, and sometimes people are right on time. I got my own long-term care insurance in my 50s. Was it expensive? Well, yes, it was. So here's the deal. Long-term care is care with what are called the activities of daily living. And this is toileting, transferring from a bed to a chair or a chair to a bed. It is eating. It is showering yourself. In other words, these are very, very, very basic human needs. You don't get insurance for someone to help you cook or someone to help you shop. That's not something that is insurable for. So, and of course, when it comes to true nursing care, that is something that will be covered by Medicaid if you deplete your assets. So we have that. There's probably a bunch of caveats there, but we have that in place. So my message is this, and I know it's going to sound trite, but the best investment you can make before you purchase any kind of insurance is to invest in your health. And investing in your health means remaining mobile, Move every day. Do your best to eat your fruits and veggies. Manage your glucose metabolism, manage your cardio profile. And that means go to the doctor, pay attention to the numbers, and don't do the easy thing like the doctor says, I can take a pill and make this go away. No, it doesn't go away with a pill. The pill just masks the symptoms. You have to walk and you have to eat right. And you know what? You have to find community. You have to find your joy. People who are joyous live wonderful, long lives. And they also find solutions to long-term care. So I know that sounds a little, hokey, but I promise you that is the first defense against frailty. The second is make sure that you are thinking 10 years down the line about where you need to live. Not everybody has knees and hips that are going to be able to handle stairs forever. Know in advance when it's time to move to a patio house or an apartment, or join with other people, because not everybody should be living independently in their home. And I know that it's hard. People are like, I want to age at home. Well, you want to age at home until everybody you know moves away and until the home is too expensive to upkeep, right? Because homes require maintenance. And wait a second, I'm paying money for a roof versus money for fun. Roof fun, roof fun. I want to choose the fun. So let's get ahead of that. We're just stubborn. I'm just admitting it. We're stubborn. We don't like change. We aren't necessarily willing to explore a way to change that works for us. And you know what? I'm a fan of group living. I'm a fan of over 55 communities. I'm a fan of renting. I have to tell you, I am a fan of renting. I do not think that home ownership is the answer to everyone. So all of this feeds into that. What kind of frailty support will I need? And then eventually, when we get to really needing help, there are people who believe they should insure against long-term care so that if they are in nursing care, and those people, they have to want it, they have to be able to fund it, they have to have a history of longevity, or they think this is a route they might go where they might need assistance. So there's a whole lot of assessments that go on with that. Um, I I think there's a particular kind of insurance that I like very much, but it's not available to everyone. And that is hybrid life and long term care insurance, where it is a life insurance policy that enables you to use it for long term care if you need it. Otherwise, the benefit goes to your beneficiary. So, one way or another, someone's going to get a payment. Um, and I think that as a product goes, I think that's an excellent product. I think that long term care insurance is really about individual choices to use insurance products against this problem. If you have family, maybe that's a decision not to use it. If you don't have family, then definitely it might be a better consideration because you're going to need to plan for your own care. Um, I also think that because we are in desperate straits now with the boomers, when you and I, the Boom X and the Gen Xers, need it, there will be different solutions available to us. I think that as a rule, it's kind of like Social Security and Medicare, nothing gets fixed until it's permitted to break. And here we are at the breaking point. So maybe stuff will finally get fixed.
I just got one last question. I want to ask you about the what you call that? The other investment tool. Uh
Other investment tool. So insurance, investments, dividends,
yes.
income,
Si-
dividends,
side, yeah, not dividends. Uh you know,
crypto, crypto.
crypto, yes.
What? Ding, 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 ding. Um, so There will always be new financial products. Um, and less interesting than cryptocurrency itself is its transfer mechanism, the blockchain. You may have heard of the blockchain.
Yes.
And it is the method by which digital transactions are authenticated. So it's establishing trust at this end and establishing trust at this end and what travels between. Um, Cryptocurrency will be a thing. It is not a thing yet. Unfortunately, it acts a little, it's like gambling. It does not have behavioral characteristics. When I say it'll be a thing in the future, the reason are democratized asset classes. So large cap stocks, small cap stocks, mid cap stocks, international stocks, bonds, treasury and cash equivalents. The reason these asset classes are part of our setup in our retirement accounts and our brokerages is that we know how they behave. They all behave similarly and they can be grouped into a class. We aren't yet certain how crypto behaves because it can be manipulated. So it's a lot like gambling. Some people want to add a little of it. Some people want to add a lot of it. I am a fan of dipping my toe in interesting things, but I would not undermine my portfolio, my entire what's called my asset allocation, my arrangement of everything. I would not undermine it. I would just leave a tiny slice of the pie and say, okay, this is the slice of the pie I'm willing to invest in crypto. And in fact, I do have in my own portfolio, I have a Bitcoin ETF, just a tiny amount just to say I did. And I'm like all things in the market, not looking at it. I'll come back and revisit it in 10 years.
There it is. I'm gonna see, Sherry, I'm gonna see if anybody has any questions. I can't think of anything else personally that I was interested in. Um,
Yeah, I
anybody,
didn't know where we were going to go, but hey, it's all good.
Yeah, these are very interesting things that everybody needs to know. Everybody needs to start planning for their retirement. And not only that, we also need to do estate planning. Are you into that as well?
Yes, well, so that's part of the training. So everyone needs to do estate planning. I am famous for telling people every Thanksgiving that when you have the family gathered around the table, so if you're doing it for Christmas, when you have the family gathered around the table, that's a perfectly good time to print out a bunch of copies of your state healthcare proxy and make sure everybody over 18 has a current healthcare proxy and you have all the people around the table so that you can witness it for one another. So that's one. Pardon me, I'm gonna cough here. Um, Everybody should have a will. I think one of the most important things people don't realize is that wills are controlled at the state level. So if you have a will in Florida and you die in New York, guess what? Those Florida stipulations may not be good. So if you move or have moved, pull out that old will and make sure you redo it. Um, and the third item, so we've got healthcare proxies, we've got wills, powers of attorney. And that's a little bit gnarly because you have to trust somebody an awful lot. A financial power of attorney is what happens when you are incapacitated and you want someone to be able to get to your money. And so that is only for a spouse or an attorney or someone. It is not something that you want to be permanent. It might be something that you want springing. So, springing from an event like incapacitation. Now, I will tell you, there are horror stories on both sides. On the one hand, um, I can think of a girlfriend whose father had dementia and did not have a power of attorney, and they had to go to court and it costs a lot of money to establish guardianship. And that's with his wife. Like his wife was there, but because she did not have power of attorney, they had to establish guardianship in family court. And so that's just painful and sad. The flip side, of course, is you read about this, especially with celebrities. Some niece or nephew is the power of attorney, and they end up abusing them financially because essentially they can sell the house from out under them and spend their money, and there's nothing to be done. So a power of attorney is a very, very powerful component. So just want to put that out there. The minimum, and you can do this stuff online. There's services, Trust and Will is a very popular one that's been picking up speed. Um, so healthcare proxy, you just download that from your state, wherever you are. A durable power of attorney or a springing power of attorney, depending upon where the trust level is there. And of course, a will for the state that you're in.
Also, because when family members pass away, there can be a lot of dissension between family members. I would recommend having a neutral third party to handle that.
So I'm going to one up you there. I think you're right. I think you're right. But I think there's an opportunity to create what's called an ethical will in this day of cell phones. I know I have walked my cell phone around my own house and I've pointed to the artwork on the wall and I've said, this is where this came from. And I'd be honored if it went to so and so, this niece or this nephew or this child. Um, and I think that we all have that ability to go into the jewelry drawer and say, these pearls came from my grandmother and I'd like them to stay on my side of the family. And the gift you can give the people you love is the gift of certainty. I think that's the biggest thing that you give people you love is these are my instructions. Well, now you have a phone. Go ahead, create instructions. Create instructions. I don't want to be buried anywhere near your Aunt Harriet. I want to be turned into a tree. Whatever. Um, make sure your kids know it so there's no fighting.
That sounds real good, but some families that's not going to work. Okay, the phone is the first thing is going to go missing. Okay, and then what you have hearsay. You know what I'm
I
saying?
hear you. Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you. When it comes to stuff, either give it away while you're still alive or go find a neutral third party.
Exactly. You got to cover your ass. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So this has been really an interesting conversation. Okay. I told you I didn't really know which direction we were going to go, but we covered all of the important things which impacts our finances, our leadership, and power. Okay. Because if our finances are not in order, then how are we going to lead, and what power do we have?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I always say my favorite hashtag is we rescue ourselves because we do. We do. And the more we own, the more confident we will feel and the better we will do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sherry. It's been a pleasure. You're a straight shooter. So I'm like, oh yeah, we got to definitely have this conversation. Okay. And thank you so much. And again, happy Hanukkah. It's from the 14th through the 22nd. And peace, love, and happiness.
Yes, happy Christmas Kwanzaa. And more joy to you in 2026 than you can stand.
I know that's right. I need it. We all need it. Okay.
We all need it.
Absolutely. Thank you all. You all take care. Thank you so much. Bye.